Good morning, everybody. I am starting to wake up. I had a little joke prepared, and I'm very leery to do prepared jokes because, as much as I feel like I'm a funny person who's completely capable of making you laugh at damn near any given moment, not with a written joke. I respect comedy writers so much. How do you do that? How do you write something in advance that remains funny and doesn't die of corniness or stupidity after you say it out loud a second time? That's incredible. Well, I had this little note written like I was a little tired. No, I wasn't expecting to do a podcast. Ooh, and pull out a flute like an anchor man. I'm Ron Burgundy, but good thing I didn't do that joke. You see what I mean? Good morning. Good morning. All right, a couple little notes here, as I like to do before I get into the big ticket items. First note is everybody has a podcast. And this was true 4 years ago when I started podcasting. Hopefully you can hear me, by the way. I didn't do a mic check. Ooh. This was true 4 years ago, and it's even more true now. And I just want to clarify. I made a joke on X yesterday. Stephen Miller, who works for the White House and is respected by a lot of people on the right, but hated by so many on the left, just completely reviled. But he's a very smart, competent guy. Takes a hard line on immigration and other things, but he's a big player in Trump's orbit. His wife, who you may remember, there were some tabloid rumors, which I shouldn't even be mentioning. Maybe there was something going on with her and Elon, even though she's married to Steven. I don't know. I don't even care about that. Sip of coffee, not tea, sip of coffee. But Stephen Miller's wife, just launched a podcast, and it looks like it's well funded. And I made a joke saying, "Oh my God, she's got a podcast deal before I do. Like this is a setback." I was completely joking. Good for her. She seems like a wonderful person. And I have learned, as much as I'm not perfect, I have learned that you can't be jealous. You cannot be jealous. There's no way to be. It's no way to be successful. So kudos to her. Good luck to her. Well, not kudos, but good luck to her, and that's very exciting. But yes, the joke I make now is I got pulled over because everyone has a podcast. I say I got pulled over the other day. The cop asked me for my license, podcast, and registration. There's another corny joke. Okay, so everyone's got a podcast, but that means you got to find a way to stick out. And it's actually an interesting point because when I started, I did have a pretty good um, unique approach, which was, well, at least in my mind, I thought it was unique, which was, hey, let me try to find my political identity. Let me talk to people from both sides and try to bring people together, also find my identity. And I still think that is a pretty unique approach. However, so much has changed. I'm a big Trump guy now, right? So this is season 2. This is me trying to do what I did originally, but also with the twist being, hey, wait a minute. I voted for Trump in 24. I'm proud of it. I let the whole world know over and over and over again on X over the last year. So now it's all about going deeper. And I'm not going to do it all in one shot. So give me time, but going deeper into the issues and reevaluating all my positions, all that good stuff. So that's what's going on. But actually, last point about being online all the time and everyone having a podcast and everyone having a voice, an observation I made is being online is tricky. It's a little dangerous because you will get praised for whatever you say. You will get destroyed for whatever you say. So how do you know what's right? How do you know what's right? And I want to make a point here that I do want to do the right thing. I do want to do good. I do want to acknowledge that there's good people on both sides. I do want to take back some of my most assholey statements online where I, basically said you're brain dead if you voted for Kamala and you have TDS. Not everyone who voted for Kamala is brain dead. Not everyone who voted for Trump is a scumbag who wants to protect pedophiles. 51%, sure. No. You see where I'm going with this? Okay. One other little item before we get to the bigger stuff here is there's a really funny account. Look up on Instagram Trump as a gay guy. I should have gotten the guy's name, of course. Let me take another sip. What? Do you mind? This is I've always thought of this. Have you noticed over the years that Trump says things and you go, that sounds gay as hell, bro? He's talking about how hot a guy is or how hunky a guy is or how in shape a guy is or, you know, And so this presumably gay guy, um, takes all those quotes and he lip syncs them and he does all his eye movements and his facial motions, and it's really really funny. Trump as a gay guy, absolutely hilarious. So go check that out. Okay, getting into my next topic here. This one's kind of near and dear to my heart. Howard Stern is apparently being canceled, and this is actually heartbreaking to me because I stopped listening to him, not because of COVID, not because of his politics, although we certainly deviated from each other during that time, but it's because I went to law school a couple years ago and I got pretty like zoned into working and going to school and passing the bar, and I never got back. And there's so much media to consume these days and doing my own podcast that I kind of fell out of rhythm with the show, and I regret it because it's such a good show. The show is so funny, so interesting. I mean, what to say about Howard? Um, in 2013, I moved to San Diego from New Jersey, moved across the country. I knew one person in San Diego. I left all my friends and family behind to take a job, and I've been here ever since. And I love it, and it's been great. But I got to tell you, one of the best things that I had going for me was when I bought my Kia Optima in 2013. It came with satellite radio and Howard Stern, and started listening for the first time. I'd never been a Howard Stern guy, and it was at that time that he was really starting to blossom into his transition over at SiriusXM, away from some of the most naughty, most um, provocative stuff and into the most interesting. And this is where he really began to shine as the king of entertainment. He knows so much about movies, TV, the industry, radio, the history. And so when he had a musician or a comedian or an actor on, this guy, not only did he bring his own daddy issues, which was really helpful in making the guests feel comfortable and getting the guests to open up about their psychological profile, and we could all relate to Howard, at least I could relate to Howard in so many ways. But his depth of knowledge of the industries, when you combine that, when you had a big player, a celebrity on his show, you were gonna get that person's motivation. You were gonna learn that person's knowledge of the industry. It was just absolutely fascinating every time. So, and not only that, he was this East Coast strong Jewish man, you know, booming out of my car speakers at a time where I was, a little bit longing for New Jersey, New York vibes. So it's hard to believe if the news is true that Howard's being canceled. I know every 5 years there's the contract negotiations, and we'll see what happens. But I love him. I love his show. I think it's one of the funniest fucking shows I've ever heard. What he does with his staff, his producers, his writers. I mean, Ronnie, Sal, Richard, Gary. I could name them all. I can name them all. Um, Such a good show. I am such a fan. Frankly, it was a dream of mine. I often say to myself, "Wow, Brian, you really sat on your dreams for so long. That's why you're so frustrated as an adult now." And that's true, and that's part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast. But one of the very few dreams that ever kind of manifested clearly in my head was, "It'd be cool if I worked for Howard. That would be cool because I love comedy. I've kind of got a deep voice, and I feel like I could have flowed with those guys." I'm just such a big fan. I can't tell you how much of Howard Stern and his whole show. Now, it's funny. Howard's kind of famous for shitting on podcasters, and people have criticized him for that. But I get it. You get it, right? I mean, he created podcasters. Howard broke the mold. Howard revolutionized radio and broadcasting and media, and so everyone podcasting is a descendant of Howard Stern. And I'm actually very proud to be walking in his footsteps, sharing, probably oversharing, putting myself at risk, exposing myself. Hey, I'm talking about my family. I'm talking about my personal life. Now, I haven't gone all the way, but I've gone pretty damn far. People are like, how do you share this stuff on? I'm like, you know what, Howard, it worked for Howard. So wish me luck. But, um, and related to this conversation is just what a weird time it is to be a Jew in America, to be an American Jew. So that's really related to the Howard speech. It's very comforting to listen to him, and I think he was right about a lot of the anti-Semitism that's begun to bubble up in recent years, but I don't obviously make that connection to MAGA. And so we see things a little differently there, but that's where my law school training in critical race theory kind of helps me. I have a leg up on Howard and say, you know what, I'm dicing up this political climate a little differently than you are, Howard, but I certainly respect you. Respect the hell out of you. Love them. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to Hunter Biden and AI and McDonald's. This is, I think, the last kind of warm up item. And I'm hesitating because I don't think I correctly put my notes in order. So let me make sure I do that. So on the Hunter Biden thing, my only point is we've all been seeing those clips of that wonderful podcast host. I wish I had his name, but all respect and credit to him for drawing out this great content from Hunter Biden. It takes two to tango. It takes two to do it. So if this podcast host wasn't really good, we wouldn't be getting the great comments from Hunter. But Hunter has revealed himself to be funny and charming and very smart and interesting. And I posted that, and someone said, Brian, he's a fucking crackhead. And I said, okay, yeah, but he's America's crackhead, damn it. No, his point was AI is going to, I mean, this is not a revelation exactly, but he made a very interesting point about a buddy of his who has a McDonald's franchise. And this is what AI did to his business, and it boosted the profits, but it killed the jobs. So the point was, hey, we're going to be in for either total destruction of our country through AI, or it's going to be great, but there'll be a rough patch to get to great. So rocky times ahead in the short term, no matter what it would seem. This is a crazy time, guys. And Hunter talks about AI in that clip. AI, look it up. He talks about AI, quantum computing, combustion engines. I mean, this guy knows what the fuck he's talking about. And by the way, I'm not just on this, oh, Joe Rogan and a few other people said Hunter's really smart and he should run for president kick. I'm not saying he should run for president, but I've been on this Hunter Biden is actually really smart kick for years now. I remember seeing a leaked email like 4 or 5 years ago where when Hunter was really just starting to make news, and it was an email that he apparently wrote to someone, his board or something, about the Eastern European liquid natural gas industry. I said, Jesus, this guy's a genius. He certainly knows a lot about that business. So if he wrote that email, wow, very smart guy. I'd love to interview him. Hunter, you're welcome on my show. Okay, bring the blow. I'm kidding. All right. Okay. getting into it here. Where do I want to start with my main topics? I think I will start with this idea that it's been a crazy last 25 years in American politics. And one thing I didn't do, now I'm just realizing in preparation for this, is go back. I told you a couple of weeks ago I read a book called Confronting the Presidents by Bill O'Reilly and Martin Dugard is co-author. They've done a billion books together. And it was great. You get each chapter is a brief history of a snapshot of each president's presidency and the issues they face and all that. And at the very end, they did, instead of doing a joint chapter as they have for all presidents, they each did an essay for Biden and they each did an essay for Trump at the end because their legacies are not set in stone yet. And in Martin Dugard's essay about Biden, or may have been the one about Trump, I don't know, but he just makes this point about how wild, and his perspective, by the way, is, hey, I'm a patriotic Democrat. I'm a patriotic liberal. I'm a Christian. I have patriotic values, but I'm a Christian. I'm married to a social worker, and so Bill O'Reilly may believe one thing, but I'm on the left side of the aisle, and he was totally upfront about it in the appropriate chapter, where that was just an essay commentary, and it's kind of a post book chapter on Biden, and so Dugard says, "Hey, man, even though I'm a lefty and I'm not really a Trump guy and he lost me, let me acknowledge it's been a crazy 25 years with 9/11, fake weapons of mass destruction, the Patriot Act, Obama controversies, Trump controversies, COVID, January 6th. I mean, we have been put in a blender and more and more. By the way, I left off. So one thing I didn't do in preparation is list out all the things he wrote because I go, damn, that's a good list. That's a good list. And the point being, maybe I'm not so crazy for being shaken up and undecided and confused politically. And I think it speaks to this idea that Epstein, by the way, I failed to mention in that list. What is going on? So I think it's understandable for people to be like searching for political identity. And in this environment, you have this guy named Trump who emerged. And he's a very interesting character. And I'll get to him in a second and why I think the word to associate with his presidency is irony. Is irony. Let me think here. Do I want to get right into the irony of Trump or do I want to start with this little commentary on profiles and courage? I think what I'm going to do. All right, let me start with the irony of Trump. Okay. So, why do I think the word irony is the word for Trump? Well, and don't take this the wrong way, fellow Trump supporters, because I do think he's hilarious and cool and effective and talented and interesting. So don't read too much into it. But he's kind of like he kind of is a con man. Right? He's kind of a fraudster, kind of a bullshit artist. And I'm not saying he hasn't been successful, especially in recent years. But you know, he did have a lot of failed businesses, which is fine, better than I ever did. But he did kind of have a reputation for being a bullshit artist, kind of a fraudster con man. Okay, I acknowledge that. Why do you think I didn't vote for him in 16 and 20? Yet he runs the country well. Okay, wait a minute. That's irony. He instigates the media. He's provocative, not only the media, but federal institutions and polite society. Yet he reveals their biases. That's irony. He doesn't seem particularly pious. Not that I am, and I'm not. I don't pass judgment, by the way. But a lot of people do. So this list is kind of for the people who pass judgment. He doesn't seem particularly pious, yet he's ushered in a movement to bring God back. That's irony. He's not in superb shape, you might say. Although some would say, hey, look at the way he moves around compared to Biden. And he has gotten in better shape in recent years, but he's a little overweight, not exactly the prime example of physical fitness, yet he's brought back the presidential fitness test and he's encouraging people more broadly. And credit to Michelle Obama for her campaign to get everyone moving. But he's fighting this woke critical race theory perspective of postmodernism where we fight objective reality. He's fighting that. He's saying, we're going to restore common sense. We're going to restore objective reality. And tucked into that is, by the way, fat is fat and thin is thin and thin is better. So get thin. That's irony. Here's another one. He's this business guy, right? He's got no, it appears that he doesn't really have much affection for art or interest in art. He's this business mogul, yet he's on the board of the Kennedy Arts Center. He does care about reviving art. You know, I mean, another knock against him is he shat on Hamilton when it first came out, and understandably, he had beef with them, but so he didn't acknowledge Hamilton, which I thought was a miss on his part because it was such a brilliant play. I love how Pence and his wife went to it, even though I think they had to walk out. It's an amazing play. I shed a tear, I believe, when I saw it. Saw it with my brother. He was like, "I don't get it." I was like, "All right, we're different people." But Trump does, I think, in some way, have a reviving effect on the arts, even though he's not really that guy. Okay, that's irony. Here's another one. I mentioned this a little bit before. He's kind of known to be this carnival barker, this kind of joke, TV personality, not serious. Yet, look how seriously he handles the business of government. Look how seriously he negotiates trade deals. Look how seriously he negotiates peace deals. This guy is not fucking around, and he's not a joke. That's ironic, given the perception about him. I could keep going. I have a few more. Sip of coffee. This one's a bit of a question mark. He's a pro-business guy, right? He's a billionaire who pisses in golden toilets, but he's become the hero of the little guy. So that's not up for debate. He's become the hero of the little guy, and that's one of the most fascinating components of his rise, and that will be written about for a very long time. The most interesting question, so that's ironic, but the most interesting question on that item is it true? And this is what I'm searching for in my in my search. Is it really true that what's good for business is what's good for the little guy? If that's true, like, wow, if I can internalize that, then I'll turn the corner and be able to actually advocate for libertarian or conservative views. I'm not there yet. That's why I want to go deeper on this round. Is it possible that that's true? Damn. You know, my dad and all the liberals, all the lefties were wrong. Reagan was right. I've I'm in that direction now, but I'm still searching for the beef there. I'm searching for the backup before I can really embrace it for life. Okay, last bullet here in terms of the ironies of Trump is, and this is a really good one. And someone saw this. It was JoJo, you know JoJo from Jersey, the online influencer. She was commenting on, oh, now I forget who, a post. There was a really funny exchange back and back. Oh yeah, Charlie Kirk said um, something like conservatives are more masculine than liberals, and that was one of the underlying appeals of Trump, his masculinity, and liberals just can't touch him there. Yeah, true, absolutely true. And then JoJo comments something like, "Charlie, he wears makeup and a girdle and lifts in his shoes." It was kind of funny. And I go, "That's ironic, but it's also true. This guy has brought back masculinity." Again, part of fighting the woke thing, fighting the idea that it's not okay to be a man. It's okay to be a man. Trump has reminded us of that. It's okay to be an imperfect man and strive and reach beyond your grasp. I sound like Alex Jones now. Magellan! But so this is a pretty good list of ironies of Trump, and I think historians will be writing about this character. And you know, hopefully it works out to where it's true. What's good for business is good for the little guy, and or if not, that is strictly true that Trump is also looking out for the little guy. That would be nice to know. Time will tell. But you can see where I've cast my vote for the time being. Okay, so that's the ironies of Trump. Now, before I get into the first chapter of Abundance, this famous book, I've got it right there, which I thought was worth mentioning. I first actually want to tell you another book that I'm one chapter into, and that is Profiles in Courage by John F. Kennedy. And so it was reading the Confronting the President's book that inspired me to jump over to Profiles in Courage. May I take another sip of coffee? I'm asking. All right, 1 second. Damn it. I need it heated up. Okay. I said, all right, let me check out this JFK guy because I don't know as much about him as I should. And so I opened the first chapter. And it was interesting how JFK's first line basically is saying how the biggest challenge to political courage, this was, who knows when he wrote this book, the 50s, the 60s, I don't know. The biggest challenge to political courage, he said at that time, is mass communication. Can you believe that? He said it's saturated our life, and therefore, any unpopular course is protested. The professionalism of politics, the mechanization of politics, the public relationization of politics undermines political independence. He says we've become rigid. Kind of sounded like he was searching for his political identity. Well, yeah, I think he was. In writing Profiles in Courage, he wanted to, as he was about to take office, I believe, understand what made his heroes tick, what made his heroes heroes, what made the greats greats. And he determined it was to take unpopular stands, it seems from the first chapter. Now, it's kind of interesting that he said that because I don't think I had read the first chapter yet a day or two ago when I said on Twitter, it just popped into my head. Political leadership is doing what's right. It's not about doing what's popular. So how do you know what's right? And it makes me think of a lot of progressives that I've known over the years who say, if you look at polling, you say certain things that the American people support have been enacted over the years, certain things haven't. Look at look at both lists, and then you can see what the oligarchy really cares about and how far they'll permit you to go. And the flaw in that argument is, okay, yeah, we're a democracy. Okay, fine. I'll give you we're a democracy and not a constitutional republic, even though we could argue about that. We're a constitutional republic, which is a form of democracy. That's the real answer. Okay, it's both. Fine. We're a democracy in part, but that doesn't mean that we always should enact the majority rule. I mean, this is basic political philosophy 101. You don't always do what's popular. So I certainly don't think we should have a government where it's literally a direct democracy. I mean, look, maybe some things would get better, but some things would be untenable, right? I'm asking. I mean, I'm kind of asking, I'm kind of saying, but so political courage is to do what's unpopular. Okay, very interesting. So what's right? What's popular? Someone says you need a moral compass for that, you need faith, you need revelation. This is kind of getting to the core of what you do when you search for political identity. You try to find out what's right and what's true, and actually put a bookmark in what's true when I come back to aliens at the end of this. I'm going to end with aliens, and I got to go to work. But that was the introduction to Profiles in Courage. So I'm looking forward. And last thing I'll say is JFK, as far as I understand, was big on integration, right, of the races. He was pushing the Civil Rights Act. And I thought I had another thing. Maybe the other comment was independence. But so okay, pushing integration, but he was also fighting very hard against communism. He wanted to preserve the spirit of individualism and dissent, the ability to dissent in this country. So he was not a communist, right? So what is that balance between um, integrating? I'm kind of conflating issues here, but the CRT people, and bringing it back to last week's episode, the CRT people say, okay, we've integrated. JFK presided over LBJ, presided over integration, and now we've integrated, but now we got to fix this problem. Now we're one messy culture. It's still not working. It's still not fair to black people. We got to fix that. That's CRT. We got to rearrange the culture. And my comment and the MAGA comment is, no, 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 no. We're melded now. We're melded under this new updated version of the original founding ideals, which is they apply to everybody now. Awesome. We fixed our fucking blatant hypocrisy. That's our culture. It's not white. It's not black. It's American. Let's live under that. That's where I come from. That's where MAGA lives. That's why I voted for Trump. Would JFK have that same view, or would he be ultra progressive now and say, no, we got to make this culture work for black people, particularly black people who are descendants of slaves? I think I know the answer to that. I know where I stand for now, but I'm going on this journey. I'm going to keep an open mind. So I think about that when he says integration, but not losing your individuality, not abandoning the fully realized founding values, maintaining your independence, standing up for what's right, speaking out against the mass. Would JFK be proud of what I've done? I'd like to think so. All right, let's move on to the second to last thing here. Last thing will be aliens. Second to last thing will be abundance. Well, I won't get you the book. Fuck it. I don't need to hold the book up. But I've opened one chapter, and actually I think I only read the foreword, which was really good. I actually read it twice. The foreword basically starts off with an image of you waking up in the middle of the night or the early morning, and it paints a beautifully vivid picture of all of these clean energy technologies at your disposal and the community's disposal, and delivery drones and electric vehicles and um, anti-aging and anti-hunger, fit cure-all. One pill cures everything. Pills being dropped off. They call them star pills. They paint a picture of the near future that is very abundant, where every need is taken care for at very low cost. Technology is implemented in all sectors of life, and everything is better. And in addition to painting that picture in the introduction, what they do is they also paint a picture of the two political parties, the political landscape in America and say, instead of taking a holistic view, because they ask, why haven't we built more of what we need in America? We need stuff. There are certain things we need for our population to thrive. Why the fuck haven't we built it? And they begin to answer that question by saying, well, the first thing is the left divvied up part of the economic analysis and said, we're going to take the demand side. And the right said, we're going to take the supply side. And if I'm remembering off the top of my head, I wish I'd reviewed my notes, but supply side being like cutting taxes and regulations, demand side being putting money in people's pockets to purchase goods. They say that in itself, that division of labor, if you will, in terms of tackling economic issues, is the first problem because now you've divided, and the two sides aren't talking to each other when in reality we need a holistic approach. So that's basically it. I'm looking forward to getting a lot of insights from the rest of the book, and I'll be sharing with them with you as I go. All right. So we got Profiles in Courage, chapter 1 going. We got Abundance, chapter 1. We read the book about the presidents, and I'm working. I got a lot to read at work, so I'm trying to keep up with the news. I mean, there's a lot of media, right? No wonder I can't listen to Howard anymore. I mean, I got to listen to Bill Maher and fucking I don't know Tim Dillon. I try to listen to from time to time. I don't really have anyone in my regular rotation, so it's kind of ironic. Speaking of irony, it's kind of ironic that I ask people to listen to my podcast. I'm like, I'm not listening to the greats. Who the fuck's gonna listen to me? Okay, sip of coffee and last topic. Who's ready? Why even mention aliens? Well, can't you see how it's related to my search for truth? And a year ago, 2 years ago, I was in the middle of the initial search and everything was new at the time. And I go, as I'm discovering libertarianism and I'm like, oh my God, that's an interesting alternative. And what's true, trying to find out what's true. And I really become online for the first time. I was really not a big online guy. Um, that's when I started to see all this alien stuff. And I'm searching for truth. I don't want to get over my skis and say I know, because I don't know things are true, or I don't want to say I firmly believe, but I certainly do say it seems to me like it's very possible that we have an alien situation going on here. Let me explain what I mean. But first of all, they're all over the internet, everywhere, and it's not just crazy people. You cannot avoid it. It's everywhere. So why are so many intelligent, rational people talking about aliens? Have we really just had these conspiracies go that deep into our culture where they're just making their rounds again? Or is there something there? What the hell? I mean, we got people talking about Avi Loeb and interstellar cigar-shaped objects, and we're all gonna die in 2027 and get ready. I mean, it makes you want to pray. I don't know. Some people say this is the way for the devil, the enemy of God, to explain away the rapture when because people say, oh, yeah, they're coming for the bodies and they're going to take, they've been genetically tweaking certain humans and they're going to come recover them in 26 or 27 when they make themselves known. And someone said, oh, but that's a good way for the demons to disguise the rapture so that people on earth will be saying, oh, these people got sucked up to heaven, but it was really just because our alien creators are taking back their science experiments. Who the fuck knows? But let me say a few things about all of this. First, real quick, before I even say a few things, one of the last, and I'm not necessarily going in the best order here, so this is a smorgasbord of thoughts on aliens, so bear with me. One of the last pieces of info I got was from this guy, Israel Anderson. He has a theory. He's a Gnostic, Gnosticism. Look that up. We'll talk about that another day. But his theory is like the Anunnaki or whatever you want to call it, 400,000 years ago, something like that, came to Earth to mine gold, right? Eventually, after 100,000 years or so, they got bored of doing it themselves. They took the local primate on Earth, they upgraded them, put them to work. So we were initially created as a slave race to mine gold for these gods. It's a whole deep thing. And bottom line is they're coming back. he ties it into Jesus and Yeshua and the God of the Hebrew, the God of my people, the alien, and it's very plausible when he says, okay, maybe we had an ancient race of a creator species that came here, messed with our DNA, did it for a reason, and kind of left us to be. Maybe there was a battle between two factions of these of this creator race that, yeah, and they're coming back to free us of this. Okay, that's one theory. Um, and my own 2 cents on that is, well, it sounds insane, and maybe it is, but if you're willing to say, there's some evidence that we have UFOs here, or even recovered bodies of ETs. If that's plausible to you, you can't just rule out. Well, maybe they've been here for 500,000 years, and maybe they had something to do with our development, and maybe they're coming back, and we're gonna be a witness to it. Maybe it's mind blowing. I don't know. Let me tell you why I give it any credence, and I don't just dismiss it. It's funny because, and I've said this before, but when I was in high school and a total stoner, I was obsessed with like telekinesis. I could control things with my mind, and psychic powers are really a related topic to this alien thing. So it's just like, Jesus, my mom thinks I'm fucking crazy, but I was never interested in aliens for some reason, believe it or not. I just, I don't know. Never thought about aliens. Which in hindsight, I go, why the fuck wasn't I thinking about aliens? It's really interesting. But the reason I'm giving it so much thought now is not just the Netflix shows, the Ancient Aliens, all the stuff I'm seeing online. That's a lot. But the main thing is, I don't know, a year and a half ago, nearly 2 years ago, my fiance and I, who were just dating at the time, we went out to dinner with her friends. Um, my Alexa knew the girl. Her boyfriend at the time, her friend's boyfriend at the time, was this guy who was working for a defense contractor here in San Diego. He had just gotten hired for a three-letter agency in Virginia, where he now works, lives and works. And so he was at the time, for the defense contractor, a machine learning AI engineer, really smart guy. It was an aerospace firm. We had a couple drinks, and I said, "Dude, am I fucking crazy about this alien stuff for believing that there actually might be here?" And he looked at me and he said, "You're not crazy, and there's more I can tell you in 2026." Dead ass. Then his girl starts talking about, "Oh yeah, we were on a commercial flight one day over the ocean, and we saw this giant black disc come out of the ocean." I'm like, "Okay, fuck it, I'm in." And so I said to him, I said, "Hey, I'll pretend his name was John." I said, "John, okay, I'm not crazy. You're going to tell me more in 2026." Wow, my jaw's on the floor. Let me ask a follow up. Is there anything to do with like religion? And he goes, like, you mean like a deity? And I go, I guess that's what I mean. He goes, no, no, no. So what I got from that is aliens are here. And who knows if they have anything to do with our origins, but they're here. So that's crazy. So there's that. Then fast forward a year after that conversation, I'll tell you what I saw in March of this year. Now, I'm tempted to, in between these two little stories, tell you a little rundown. All right, let me give you a little rundown before I tell you what I saw in March. So I see all this stuff online on Netflix. It's part of pop culture. I'm like, wow, waking up to it, I go, is there something to this fucking shit? What the fuck? I'm searching for truth. You could see how it ties in. Will tell John tells me this story. I'm gonna get people killed, I swear to you. John tells me this story, and I'm like, fuck, man, that's crazy. Now I'm obsessed with aliens. And I start talking to people. One of the people I talked to was the QAnon shaman, who's a great guy. What's his name? Jake. Chansley, right? Jake. Super nice guy. I don't know. This was like a year ago, year and a half ago. I caught one of his videos on Rumble called "Aliens Walk Among Us." It was a 3-hour video, and I was just like, I don't know. I was like, so fucking, it's a great video, man. So I hit him up, and I go, "Do you want to talk about this on my show?" And he goes, "Bro, I would love to." You know how many people are hitting me up to talk about January 6th? I would love to talk to you about aliens. So we did, and it was very technical, and a lot of it went over my head. But the big takeaway I had is this, and I asked him if my takeaway was correct, and he said, "Yeah, that's correct." Here's the broad takeaway, and I don't know if this is separate from the theory about creating us 400,000 years ago or not. I don't know if this is a totally separate theory or somehow, that they overlap or not. But here's a big theory that I would say is even more widespread than the one I explained earlier about creating us to mine gold. Here it is. The concept here is that the universe is teeming with life that is beyond our perception, and we ain't alone at all. Teeming with life, even around all around us. And there are basically two types of civilizations, type A and type B. Type A, basically good and bad. It's a little more complicated than that, but basically good and bad. Basically, you could think of them as angels and demons. The good team, the good types. So, what they have in common, both groups, is that they've both become so advanced that they can travel the cosmos and have all these incredible. They're like masters of the universe, basically. But they get there in very different ways. The type A, the good, friendly types, they develop their technology through conscious development and apparently you hear about these things, the science of consciousness and quantum entanglement, and they can travel and do all this cool magic shit basically just by willing it through thought. Okay. That's one group, and they're the good people. They can fly around, they can do whatever they want. The other group is the group who lost all conscious connection to source, to God, to the OG source of consciousness. These people have ascended the technological ladder, not through conscious development, but through technology. They've ascended, I should say, to the point where they have all these abilities, advanced abilities, not through conscious development, but through technological advancement. They're basically the AI beings. They're half AI, half organic, maybe even less than half organic, maybe even hardly not maybe inorganic at this point. They merge with their crafts. You hear about the UFOs being only controlled by so these type B groups, they merge with technology. What are they? Where does the tech begin and the life end and so forth? And what they want to do is they want to bring other civilizations into their way of being. And so you could see this battle for humanity, light and good, light and dark. I don't know. I don't know. But how are we supposed to keep our eye on important issues when this kind of stuff is going mainstream? And maybe that's the point, you know? Maybe every minute that I'm devoting to talking about type A and type B civilizations is where the oligarchy is laughing their asses off, and I'm not talking about healthcare, whatever. So maybe, maybe we got to figure that out. So I think my charge will be to not dismiss it. It's interesting. It's fun. It's related to truth immensely. And if it's true, I mean, it upends a lot. Well, final thing I'll say is, you know, people who say, yes, it's all true and the government knows it and they're hiding it from us because it would be catastrophic if they told us. And the people would be looting and killing and everything would be upside down immediately. And that's why it has to be gentle over time or not at all. And there's a lot more I could say about the different theories and about, our military industrial complex but for another time. This is the basic gist of the alien stuff. So I think the goal here for me would be to not dismiss it, not forget about it, talk about it. It's fun, but also talk about healthcare, also talk about entitlements and try to figure out where I stand on the things that are important in people's lives every day. Because I'm the type of guy that gets lost in the sauce and lost in space, and people who know me know. I mean, I'll be thinking about aliens and miss the exit that I take every day to go to work. So I could think about aliens until I'm blue in the face. So I got to stay focused, got to stay grounded, got to stay courageous, got to stay sincere. And that's what I'm trying to do. So hopefully I'll be getting some great guests lined up soon. I have a stable of guests who joined me, Herbie, Scott Bell, and more, who will be joining me again. Those guys are great. So I do have people lined up. When I say hopefully I'll get some great guests, I mean, hopefully I'm going to spend some time reaching out to more people and making more of an effort to grab even more great guests. That would be really cool. I mean, imagine getting JD Vance on here. Imagine getting Kamala. Mm. Imagine getting Dean Phillips. Imagine getting Josh Shapiro. Imagine getting Newsom, Booker, whoever, Rubio, Tulsi, Obama. This would be good. So I'm on a journey. It's a journey to find my political identity. It's a journey to find my passion project and see, do I have do I have something going in media? Is whoever signed, what's her name? Stephen Miller's wife, is her name Katie? Katie Miller? Is whoever signed her going to sign me? Come on, guys. I'll be Katie. I'll be her coffee person. No. Okay. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll see you guys next week and look forward to it. So have a good week, good weekend. All right. Peace out.